For us, it's very simple. I will tackle only the part on taxation. And because this has been spoken and it has been deliberated very well at this platform, I wish not to belabor, to repeat what the other people have said. But there's one thing that we have come up with as a proposal as Mount Kenya Jurists, saying that out of their 100% salary that every Kenyan gets, 70% is sacred. That no government should touch that 70%. So we want it to become a constitutional provision that you do whatever you're going to do with 30%. Even God, who created the universe, is only asking for 10% from us. It's because he knows there's a limit. And you know, God hasn't changed for thousands of years. He's still taking 10% from the world. Na by that tunapeleka kwa hiari yetu. He's not forcing us. So we are saying that subsequent governments need to be aware that Kenyans are at a point where they feel that 30% is enough. And any administration that is not okay with 30% should leave office for those people who are okay with taking less than 30% taxation from Kenyans. Secondly, on the same issue, you see our constitution provides for freedom from servitude. If you read today's standard, Kenyans have become slaves in their own country because some of them are taking less than 30% of what they worked for. And let me tell you, there is an administration that thinks that every time you want to build anything as a government, that the resource for the building of that thing has to come from the pockets of Kenyans. And Kenyans are telling you that as a mother, if you ask a mother, the mother will tell you buying a tennis ball for my son is more important than building houses for the Kenya Kwanza administration. So Kenyans are at a point in place where they feel that their taxes are sacred. And their salaries are sacred. And 70% of what they make should go to themselves and their families. I do not want to belabor that point any further because it has been spoken and said here by very many people. But for us, it's about setting a ceiling. Beyond this, government cannot go. We are ready to give you your 20%, 25% if you are more generous.
You've done well so far, trust me. The next one.
Chair, I know that this is a committee that is suffering serious time constraints, so I just wish to address our concerns to just two issues. The first issue is on the limitation of boundaries. And in this, we'll only address the issue of what you can call urban constituencies. And a case in point is Uasin Gishu. So what we want to say is that there is an urban population that is always disenfranchised or there is voter dilution. And when you talk of Uasin Gishu, you'll know, or you can call it comfortably, a pizza county, where the urban population does not have any representation because the way the county boundaries are existing, they deny them of any solid representation. The other thing that I would like to address is the issue of the protected constituencies. This is a fallacy, because if you look at these units you call constituencies, they exist within a county. And the so-called protected constituencies, especially in the Mount Kenya region, exist in counties which have the liquid population quota to form the number of constituencies that are currently existing. So if there has to be any border delimitation, then the same should be calibrated to accommodate the same number of constituencies, borrow award here, donate award there, and you remain the same number of constituencies. I believe that this committee comprises of literate people, and we have submitted our memorandum, and let me not lead through and donate the rest of the time to my team members. Thank you.
Chair, we have 5 bullet points for the remaining time in order to do justice to the long memorandum that we have done. The first issue, I think that it is fair, would be to start on the issues of the Jubilee Party. Chair, the reason why we are here as representatives of Mount Kenya Jurists is that we have heard when Azimio was presenting that Jubilee Party have come before this forum. Instead of coming to speak to the issues that is facing Mount Kenya counties, they have come to say how they are being fought and rebellion caused in their people. This issue is absolutely more important than can be imagined from a constitutional perspective. Because for the first time in our country, Kenya's largest community does not have a political party that can be able to speak on its behalf. The last time, during the colonial time, during the mid-1980s, during the era of President Daniel Arap Moi, when the Kikuyu community was disenfranchised economically and politically, you had serious constitutional crises that occurred. And therefore, as our first point, the issue of purely somebody imagining that you can take Jubilee Party as the last voice that can credibly be able to speak for the people of Mount Kenya is going to have very serious repercussions in view of the fact that the discontent, and I believe you come from the area, that is boiling in central Kenya, and there is nobody to give voice to that discontent, will ultimately be dangerous to this country. And it is a reason that earlier on, you may have an attempt that when discontent boils, young people will start to be called Mungiki, and you will have another round of extrajudicial executions that have occurred previously in this country. That's point one. So it's a damn serious issue, whether we have anybody speaking for us. Issue number two is this: the fact that for purposes of having a country, Kenya, when you speak about all these issues that you are talking about, audit of presidential elections and all these other issues, it boils down to one simple issue. And that simple issue is this, that in Kenya we have head of state, commander-in-chief, and head of government. Ultimately, in any country, it is the fidelity of the presidents to the constitutions that avoids this maandamano and ensures the country is being governed competently and to avoid financial collapse that has occurred in Ghana, Sri Lanka, and even Haiti. In saying this, we have this in mind, that if we continue to have the current trajectory, in which, for example, you do an elections in the year on the 9th of August last year. So you are president because of the vote outcome on the 9th of August last year. If on the 9th of August last year, the gazetted elections results was that Azimio Party was a majority, then it is a moment for introspections by the president. On what basis could members have been sponsored to ensure that Kenya Kwanza would get an artificial majority in parliament and to get its own founder member, Honorable Wetangula, declare that that Kenya Kwanza, which was a minority according to the elections, is ultimately the majority in Kenya. It is our submission as Mount Kenya Jurists that if those election results could simply be accepted and respected, it would be possible for this country to be governed on the basis of the actual outcome of the elections. Point number three, and this is very important for the Mount Kenya people, the issue of resource allocations. The issue of resource allocation, and it touches our heart, that we are yet to see an elected leader from Mount Kenya speaking about this very serious issue. We have had the people dying on queues. We have had situations where Mount Kenya counties people for bursary are getting 2,000, when other people are educating, and these are personal friends from Northern Kenya. People are taking children to colleges in Kenya and even outside on government scholarship. This issue, Madam Chair, must be addressed in two perspectives. Perspectives number one is that on the issues of counties, and there are some proposals that have been made on how new counties are going to be created, We have, in these proposals, we have one county from Mount Kenya. This is Nyambene. If you go by that proposal, that there is only one county that is going to come from Mount Kenya, two things will happen. We share money in Kenya under the Constitution based on the number of counties that any community have. So we are running the danger that because of an apparent quietness of the elected leaders of Mount Kenya, you will have a situations in which new counties will be created to 60 or whatever number it's going to be, and Mount Kenya will only have Nyambene. So we have made a proposal in our write-up to ensure that there are additional counties created from Mount Kenya. Perspective number 2 is on what we called the difficulty. If you have a situations where in Mount Kenya counties, no new counties are created, under the presidential elections rules, it will not be possible to viably get a presidential candidate from Mount Kenya because of the simple rules that you must get 25% in half of the counties. And there will also be the additional issue that in the Senate, despite being the largest community, people like Somalis may end up having greater voice than Kenya's largest community before the Senate. So it's a serious issue that needs to be taken. The last 2 points are these. Madam Chair, I have a reputation.
You have 3 minutes.
I will try to do my best, but let me just make these 2 points.
Without questions.
Yes.
3 minutes, and we have not yet sought any
that's the issue.
questions.
You can avoid the questions.
We don't just... We also seek clarification.
Yes, Chair, but you have discretion. If it is very important, you will ask questions. The two other issues that we need to add to this particular issue is the big issue of Article 43. I mentioned that not because we don't have other important things, but because I have in recent past done several petitions arising from Article 43 of the Constitution. Article 43 is on social and economic rights. Under the constitutions of Kenya, the citizens have rights and obligations. One of the most important obligations of citizens is the obligations to pay taxes. But also, the counterpart or the other side of that right is that you have a right to be treated differently from an economic standpoint when you are a citizen of Kenya. Arising currently from the point of view of the people of Mount Kenya, we have seen very serious incidences in which the whole of Kamukunji, the whole of River Road, and the whole of this trading center in central Kenya are dying. Where are they dying? Because the government of the day is increasingly making policies that these so-called hustlers who supported it are making it very difficult for them to live their lives in dignity, to support their businesses, and to be able to engage themselves. And therefore, it will be important, and I offer in this regard, to do even a supplementary memorandum, that certain laws that makes it possible for the Chinese and other foreigners to thrive in Kenya need to be amended so that we can be able to cure the problems that is boiling up in central Kenya, that sooner or later youth may be called Mungiki in order to that this problem does not come out. Final point is on what I called the risk, and I wish this committee succeeds. Why? If this committee does not succeed, the chances of this country falling into a very serious constitutional crisis is very high. Haiti could become a joke. Why do I say this? And please listen to me, Chair, for 2 minutes. I said this.
No, Kibe.
I need to explain that I have received a lot of money. Madam, 2 minutes, yes.
Just go straight.
I'm going straight to the issue. Those issues that I'm saying there is emerging constitutional crisis, I was paid a lot of money by Kenyan states to be
no, please keep proceed.
Point one.
Proceed.
I was talking to Aaron. Point one, Chair, is this. There is a legal order that was made in March 2012 to create the current constituencies and wards. That legal order is expiring or lapsing in March 2024. What that means is this, that no other elections can be able to take place in Kenya until you have a new legal order. We do not have IEBC. This is a process that must take 2 years, and under the constitutions, a new legal order must exist 1 year to the elections. So the point I am making is that there is no luxury of time, and we are careful. If we are not careful, in Haiti, the crisis patry is there because you did not have a presidential elections for whatever reasons. In Kenya, a legal jam may take you to this crisis.
We've had you. We've had you.
I have
That's
2
a good
points
point.
to finish. I have 2 points to finish. On that issue, it's an important issue, Chair.
Chair,
Just 2.
But he's just made the point that the committee doesn't have the luxury of time.
Yes, but
That's why, because you understand, I want you to understand one thing. We have 7 other groups behind you who will feel so bad on us that we've kept them.
Senator
And they don't get a chance to
respect
ask.
you a lot. I am sure that very few constitutional lawyers have spoken before you. Let me just make 2 points.
You
Just
know,
2 points.
this committee treats all Kenyans.
Can I give you 30 seconds, Kibe? 30 seconds.
The second issue
Yes, 30
that-
seconds,
is that
kindly.
under the High Court judgment, it is required, and this goes to Parliament, it is required that a law be made for purposes of how we delimit locations and sublocations. Parliament has not done this, which is necessary to facilitate constituency boundaries. Final point, therefore, is this, that when we talk about the totality, Chair Lady, of all these problems that we are talking about the economy, so many countries we keep talking about state failure. From a constitutional point of view, state failures can be triggered by economic factors and it can be triggered by political factors. These factors, the circumstances that will conspire to create them are already in existence in Kenya. They require competent leadership that is consultative of all Kenyans, that in the fullness of time, if it comes to biting the bullet and a government of national unity is necessary, we may have to go that route to prevent state failure or collapse in this good Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think now I'll seek